Welcome to Mind Vault podcast, where we unlock minds one story at a time. In today's fast-paced and ever-evolving work environment, understanding the importance of mental well-being is crucial for both the employees and the employer. Whether you are a leader looking to implement changes or an employee seeking balance, this is the space for you. So let's dive in and discover how we can transform our workplaces into thriving environments for mental health. We're talking to Sibahle. She's a labor economist and a career coach who is passionate about advancing financial inclusion, job creation, and growth mindsets for youth across Africa. Sibahle is also the co-founder of the Careerist Collective, which is equipping students, graduates, and young professionals with tools, mindset, framework, and network to navigate the evolving world of work. Thank you so much for gracing our podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for the conversation today.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to this, and we had a chat, when I got to see your profile, and I just thought this is a perfect person that I need for our podcast.
Yeah.
Mainly because as a psychiatrist, I am starting to see a growing patients' needs coming in with, we need advice when it comes to professional work.
Sure.
And they come in distress, they come in depressed, they come in suicidal, frustrated, all sorts of emotions.
Yeah.
And I know from my side as a psychiatrist, I can help with the emotional regulation. I can help a bit with confidence, but I know that I'm not qualified to advise on what they can do in a workplace because it's outside of my jurisdiction. And I feel like that's where you come in. So before we even start with the work details, can you please just tell us more about yourself and how you ended up doing all these things that you are doing? Yeah.
Thank you so much for that introduction and question. So I'm Sibahle. I'm from the Eastern Cape originally.
Okay.
I grew up in a town called Mthatha.
Okay.
And Mthatha is very well known. I mean, the Eastern Cape for education. Yeah. But I think even growing up, I was very conscious of the fact that most of the people in our community who are alcoholics or are depressed, it's because they don't have jobs. They don't have things to do. Right. And there's no opportunities. Everyone says we'll have to migrate and go to Joburg, see a Goli to get work. So I think from a young age, I became quite conscious that this thing of inequality is also a consequence of lack of access to opportunities.
Yeah.
So then I went to UCT. I studied economics because I was like, I want to dedicate my life to changing my nation and making it better.
Wow.
Okay. So when I studied economics, I was introduced to this topic called labor economics. So that looks at the supply of jobs that are available and also then the demand, and actually thinking about what are the skills that are required for people to actually be absorbed into the various jobs which exist. So a lot of my research was about that. How do we actually make sure that people are not just getting educated, but there's a school to work transition?
Yeah.
So then I studied myself. I did 2 master's degrees. And then I was like, for sure, I'm going to get a dream job. I mean, my other master's degree is from the UK.
Sure.
I'm sure when I come back to SA, everyone will want me. And that was not the case. I came back to South Africa in 2017 after finishing my master's. And I spent almost 2 years looking for a job as qualified, educated, and highly networked as I was. And I remember going through a depression, like very depressed. It was such a hard time because you feel useless. You feel like even though you're educated, you have no value to bring, right? And I mean, I was applying rigorously. I'd go to interviews, have so much hope, but at the end of it, it just wouldn't work out. So then that's when I started almost doing gig work. So what happened was that some organization would say, okay, we could use your help, but only for a few months. It can be a contract. So then I started until 2 years later, I finally did get a full-time job, my dream job at the time,
Okay.
which I thought was a dream when I started. But I realized there were certain skills that I didn't know. So communicating, engaging with managers, networking, winning people over. There's all these unwritten rules and protocols in the workplace that even my 2 master's degrees
didn't prepare
me for. So that's when I was like, if I, with all my education, have struggled so much, how much more the average person, maybe they only have a matric or they only went to maybe did undergrad and now they now push into this world and it's expected for them to have work, but they don't have the tools to actually navigate their careers in a way that they sustain employment. So basically, that's how I ended up, doing this work as a career coach.
Okay.
This is why even with the work that I do as an economist, I'm advising institutions on how to make it easier for young people to get jobs, but also sustain them. So in a nutshell, I'm a labor economist promoting job creation and a career coach supporting young people to curate, navigate, and accelerate their career journey.
Wow. So did you find that maybe when you came into the workplace, like you say, you come in, you are qualified, 2 master's degree, and then they give you a desk and they give you a job, and you find that there are little things that the degree and the postgrad didn't necessarily prepare you for. What were those little things that you were like, I swear my professor didn't tell me about this, because even I as a doctor, it's just like, they didn't tell me I'm going to meet people with work-related stress. It's not in our textbook.
Right?
Yeah. So what are those little things that you found that, people would come from universities and then yet they don't have those things that could help them stand out at work or even perform optimally?
100%. I think the first, myth that I had to unlearn was the fact that my work speaks for itself. But in corporate, you need to speak for yourself. So if maybe they say, okay, Siba, we need you to work on this report, right? Don't, in school, you'd work and then submit for the deadline. So even at work, I would just be like, oh, I'll just make sure I submit. But I had to learn that you actually need to every week give an update. Okay, I'm working on the report. So far, I've managed to collect X amount of data, and I think I'll be done by this date. So you always have to communicate upwards, how progress is going, what milestones you kind of like achieved even as you're writing that report. So that was a big one. And it's something that I teach my clients as well, that don't just say, oh, but I delivered this on time. You need to do weekly, almost stand-ups or updates. Send an email to your manager saying, this week, I'm going to do this, or at the end of the week, this week, I managed to finish this, liaise with this person, engage with that client, because people won't just assume that you're working. You need to verbally communicate or echo back that with the task I'm given, this is what I need to do.
Okay.
A second one that is really important that we were not taught at schools, the fact that in the world of work or corporate, you actually need to have a plan. If you started this job, you yourself need to decide within 2 years, I want a promotion. Okay. Within this period, I want this opportunity. It doesn't just happen. Then you need to lobby for that. You need to ask your managers or your mentors within the organization, what are the things that I need to do to position myself for that role? And the final thing is relationships. I didn't realize how important it was to be liked. Intelligence is not enough in the place of work.
Wow.
People need to like you. People need to want to work with you. People need to feel good around you, that even when you're in a meeting and you're maybe correcting someone or adding an idea, even the way you say it needs to be very, I'd say, politically correct. You need to say, I hear what you said. I respect that thought. But I was also thinking about this idea. What do you think? Whereas in the world of academia, it's very much like, no, this, maybe you'd even say to someone, this is not the best solution. Perhaps this one is better because it's more evidence and database. So those little unwritten rules, right, are extremely important. But your degree doesn't prepare you for that kind of dynamic.
Yeah. And so that's where you come in as a career coach, right? So when you finally got a job, were you allocated anyone to help you navigate the workplace, or did you find that you had to figure things out on your own? And how did you navigate that period where you're finally excited that I have a job? And for us, it's not that I have a job, I have an income. I can go back and help my community. And sometimes you're there and you realize that the salary is inadequate, that the dreams that you had sometimes look impossible. 100%. And so sometimes you're happy that you have a job, but there's no sense of fulfillment because you realize that it's just a drop in the ocean, and yet you have this big dream to go and help. So how did you navigate the first few months, the first few years at work? Were you allocated anyone? Is it important for institution to help the graduates as they come into work, to say, we know you are going to struggle, so we have this person who's going to hold your hand until you found your fit?
Yeah, such an important point that you raised. So unfortunately for me, so the context is I joined an international global firm, okay? So a lot of my colleagues who were at my level, you'd find that they already knew the managers because they went to the same universities, or they just came from the same clubs or crews. Yeah. So they already were doing informal mentoring for each other because they had those relationships. Now, I was the only South African at that level for that. So now I was working with UK-based teams, American-based teams. So I didn't have the mentorship. I wasn't even aware of some of the mistakes I was making until I actually, during the feedback, I think performance review feedback, I think it was 6 months in, there were critical things that were raised, and I realized that, on my own, I actually can't. So that's when I then lobbied for help, for someone to advise me and actually support me within the organization. But it was also really eye-opening for me because I also didn't know that I needed to have almost a board of directors, of advisors and mentors. And I feel like because I learned it so late in the game, that the benefits were there. But I think they came at a stage where now I was probably not trusted as much because there were mistakes that had been done, because I just generally had blind spots as a lack of, the information of having support. Now, back to a lot of my clients, a lot of them, it's the same, that they don't have support. I remember there was one client who was even shocked that she actually earns less than her counterparts at the same level. Because when she started, she just went with what she was told, this is it. Whereas when she spoke to her counterparts who have mentors and advisors who told them you need to negotiate for more, they were earning more, even though they were all doing the same amount of work. So the consequences are many. Or even lobbying for, maybe there's a course that you want to do to upskill. It's easier to back up those asks when you almost have a mentor or a sponsor who said, this is available for you. You should ask for the help. So I definitely, for me, one of my biggest regrets, right, during my corporate life before I pivoted to entrepreneurship, is that I wish I had the support sooner to really just be wiser about how I maximize opportunities within the organization. And also just show up as the best version of myself.
Great. And before we even get to how you pivoted from corporate to entrepreneurship, I want to ask, in your career, do you find that there is a specific demographic that is prone to these disadvantages that you have? Do you find that maybe the Black females are less likely to present themselves as I'm worthy for promotion. I can negotiate much better. Little things sometimes, I don't know what is the proper word, but how we show up at work. Because for me, one of the things that I was often criticized about when I was doing psychiatry was my body language.
I see.
All right. And so in my tradition, if you don't look at somebody in the eye, all right, because that is confrontation and is disrespect. So I used to avoid eye contact.
I see.
Because I was trying to show respect. Okay.
That's good.
Folding my hands as well was something that my mom would always advise when you're speaking to an elderly person, because using your hands when you're speaking was viewed as disrespect
Right.
as well. And then when I
Yes.
went to psychiatry, folding hands, was viewed as I'm closed off, so people
Yes.
can't reach me, people can't connect with me. And I remember when I was criticized on those things, I got upset and I took offense because I'm like, but this is my culture. How can this Western world in Africa not acknowledge our culture? And I had to work on those things. And I could hear that some of the people that I would see would complain about those things. So I just want to know, are there specific demographics that are prone to putting themselves a bit backwards when they go into corporate or into a workplace? Or do you find that it just happens by chance?
Wonderful question. So I'll answer it both as a labor economist as well as a career coach. So you're quite right. In terms of research, Black women are actually the least likely to even opt into sectors and industries that tend to be male dominated or high paying or high stakes or highly demanding. So they don't even try to apply to get in, right? And then those who do end up getting in tend to be a minority, because then if most Black women are like, I'll just go to a sector where there's more women, or it's kinder, or it's more relaxed, then they then enter a world which was created, because historically as well, corporates were created for the white male. So even in terms of dress code, I always say the reason econs are always so high in corporates because they were made for the white male employee or employer who is wearing a suit. So there's more layers. Whereas for the woman, you're likely wearing a dress or a light shirt. So those dynamics already are clearly signaling that the ecosystem of work just historically was never designed for, women. And then Black women being another layer. Right. Another layer is that even in terms of research, if you look at, there's something called the gender pay gap. Where even there we know that there's a gap in terms of, for the same roles, same qualifications, women are more likely to earn less. And this is heightened for Black women. Okay. Then there's another layer called the mother penalty, where if a woman is Black, right, she's already earning less. But if she's a mother, the penalty is even more. So she's more likely to earn less because it's assumed that she's taking more time off work. Therefore, her competencies are already being put into question because she is a mother. So that's the layer that, and there's research. Like, for instance, there'll be a thing where for each maybe $1 that a man earns, a woman will be earning about 70 cents. Then it's even less if it's a mother, maybe 60 cents, 65 cents. You know what I mean? So the numbers don't lie. The data is there. Now, I'll speak as a career coach. So in terms of the career coach, 95% of my clients are women, and majority of those are Black women, not just only in South Africa. I have clients in Kenya. I have clients in Canada, Black women who are based in Canada, Black women based in the UK. I do have one client who's also Black, based in the US. And, they moved because they wanted more access to opportunity. And I think the biggest thing, which alludes to what you were saying about the eye contact and how we were just raised to be respectful, demure, people-pleasing, polite, kind, right? In the world of work, those attributes are not always useful or helpful, particularly for our growth. So then I am now facilitating a lot of confidence coaching sessions. So women almost have a corporate personality, because you do need to show up a certain way when you're negotiating for a raise, when you're asking to be put on a certain project, being sweet and won't work. Okay. So yes, to answer your question, majority of my clients are Black women, and I've shared with the research as a labor economist. It makes sense, right, between the results and then what I see in practice in terms of who reaches out to me for coaching support.
All right. Well, that's beautiful. And do you think that this observation or the research saying that a mother would earn less than a single woman, and I hear it where even my clients would be told that you don't have children, and so by default you can take up more work.
That's
and
good.
Is it something that is written, or is just a subtle expectation that because Clementine is single, she doesn't have children, I can allow her, or I can expect her to work until 9 p.m.
Uh-huh.
But because Sbahle is married and she's got children,
Sure.
I will stick to the contract and let her finish work at 4, and sometimes even at 3:30, so that she can beat the traffic to pick up the kids from school.
Right.
Is that something written, or
Yeah.
is it just a subtle expectation, an unconscious biasness that
Yes.
people have?
Yeah, that's a very good point you've raised. So I'll respond in terms of the data.
Yeah.
So in terms of doing the econometric research on motherhood penalties, right? And addressing this gap between mothers more likely to earn less than non-mothers.
Yeah.
What we find is that a lot of this gap is due to unexplained characteristics such as socio-cultural norms, or what you said, it's very implicit. There's subtleties that are just assumed, but they are not said verbally or contractually. So yes, a part of it is definitely that. But I think what I also want to share with you, and this is something that I hear a lot, even in, the conversations I have with clients, but even speaking to various people in the world of work, that there's this phrase or knowing globally that, give a Black woman to do it and she'll get it done. So give the Black woman most of the work, she'll get it done, but still ask for less remuneration, less recognition. So it's a social cultural norm. It's just a norm that we've just accepted, that it is what it is, that like women are the mbokotos who will continue to get it done, even if it's at the cost of their emotions, of their time, of their other leisures and liberties. So it's just unfortunately where we are.
Yeah.
And I think with my coaching, that's what I'm trying to break down, that this can't be us.
Yeah. So what are you saying is that it's not something that the corporate or the work environment is going to change. It's something that we who are disadvantaged have to stand up and say, I'm not going to be perceived like this. I'm going to challenge this narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why then, even with my coaching, a lot of the conversations are also around setting boundaries. Because I think as Black women, we're willing to we'll sacrifice, a holiday, or even one of my clients was saying it was her birthday, and they were like, but we need you on your birthday. And then she worked on her birthday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the setting boundaries as well, so that people start to expect us to have those boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having goosebumps as we talk about it, because I do experience it, but you don't understand where some of these things are coming from. So what made you transition from corporate to career coaching? And if you can just, in a basic way, tell us what it is that someone can expect in career coach, and who needs a career coach. Is it somebody who says, I want to be a CEO of the company, and so I want to now know how to approach that? Or should it be a graduate who just completed varsity and now is going to a workplace and want to know, how do I present myself in a workplace so that I'm respected and not overlooked, especially with the data that you also just alluded to?
Absolutely. So I'll start with my why.
Yeah.
So in 2022, I decided to pivot into kind of like entrepreneurship or freelance work. So I was like, I have all these economic skills, but I also have great public speaking skills.
Yeah.
And I also love people. And I felt like the corporate environment was limiting me, because all you do is, help out your clients, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's project-based, it's specific to the mandate and goals, also both of the organization you work for, but also the clients that you deal with. So I was like, I want to do more development-related work. So then I just started consulting, doing work for these international development institutions, such as, the World Bank and the UNDP. And that was part-time. So I'd be maybe saying 3 days a week, I'm doing this research, technical support. And then with the rest of my time, I was like, let me actually launch this coaching business and support young people. And I also want to mention before that, I also went on my own personal journey with a career coach who helped me just get my confidence back, really think about what am I really passionate about, and is the work that I'm currently doing now aligned with that, and how do I get back to it? So I also had almost my own becoming period. So I was
Yes.
like, I'm going to help other people do that. And I
Yeah.
felt that because I also have an understanding of like industries, because I am an economist,
Yes.
I was like, I can even give both like the micro corporate tools, but the wider, these are the sectors that are growing. These are the industries in the time of AI,
Yes.
you know, climate change, geopolitical uncertainty.
Yeah.
So who needs a career coach? So I would say everyone needs some form of mentorship or sponsorship when it comes to the career journey. You know why? Because careers are no longer linear, right?
Yes.
Even with some of my clients who are doctors, some of them work in private, they work in public, or they're in locum, where maybe a few days a week they're at that hospital or that other. Others open up their private practices. It's no longer this, you go from A and then B. It's not like that.
Yeah.
So one needs a career coach to gain the clarity of, given my experiences, strengths, and skills,
Yeah.
and what my individual goals are,
Yeah.
this is the path that I need to take. But you need an external view to help you, because in any career path, there are unknown unknowns,
Yes.
i.e., unknown possibilities that, not that you're not smart enough, it's just that you were not exposed
Yeah.
to, oh, I could actually do this
Yeah.
or speak to this person.
Yes.
So a career coach then supports you to do that. So
Yeah.
I know for students, perhaps they can't afford a career coach. So that's where mentors come in
Okay.
and what have you, so they can latch onto that. But I think the beauty of career coaching is then you almost get a clarity that, okay, this is me. This is the impact I want to make in the world. These are the various options that I could take to achieve that.
Yeah.
But given my own journey, this is the path I'll take. This is how I need to upskill. This is how I need to build my network. This is how I need to build my brand.
Yeah.
This is how I need to actually communicate my value to relevant clients or companies so that I can sustain my career. And I think also what I want to add for the context of Africa, we have about 8 to 11 million young professionals and graduates entering the labor force,
Yeah.
right? For that 8 to 11 million, there's only about 3 million formal jobs that are available to absorb them.
Sure.
So we have this gap.
Yeah.
Where now you must either be an entrepreneur, a hustler, a gig worker, whatever you call it. But for you to do that in a way that's meaningful, helps you pay the bills,
Yeah.
and helps you sustain whatever you're trying to drive, you do need support. So
Yes.
career coaches matter there. So I would say at every season, I mean, even adult CEOs need career coaches
Yes.
so they know how to lead well,
Yeah.
manage well, be good examples,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In a very uncertain world. So I think at every level and every season, if you almost have, you know, a career coach to provide a pulse check to say, okay, so far you're here.
Yeah.
Make sure you have these things in full view. That's super valuable. And like I said, for those who can't afford, you must have a mentor, or you must be following this kind of content where you are getting equipped
Yeah.
to take the right next step with clarity.
Yeah. And do you feel like, you know, like you're talking about affordability, is it such an expensive exercise, or people just don't prioritize it? You know, I rather buy a wig and shoes rather than invest in my personal growth, because I can say for me, as you are talking, I have a career coach. And when I went, it was more, are you aware that you can do more than just see clients? Are you aware that you have a wealth of knowledge, that you can speak to people? And so they've helped me to see beyond what medical school had taught me.
So good.
You know, and so it has helped me, but it has always been, okay, so how much is it going to cost me? And then they give me the price and I'm like, okay, you know? So sometimes it does look expensive, but the long-term investment, I'm starting to bear the fruits now.
You see.
But in the beginning, it was just like, oof, but it was worth the wig.
Right?
You know, like literally, it was worth a wig or a weekend away. And if I just took that money and invested. So do you find that people can afford it, but they rather not invest in themselves? They invest in their outward appearance. And then I go into an interview and then my CV and how I look doesn't match with how I speak and how I present myself, because I didn't invest so much on myself as a brand. You know, do you find that people are not prioritizing self-development as much, or is it something that is actually very expensive and only tailored for few.
So I think what it is, it's a mindset thing, right?
Yeah.
So I find with people who actually recognize the importance of having the right mindset, inner work, perspective tools, the price is nothing. Actually, they're just like, I wish I had started coaching ages ago,
Okay.
right? So I think it's a mindset thing, because you are right, because that same value someone is spending, like you said, on a dinner, going out for dinner just casually with friends. But what I have noticed that for my clients who then start, maybe they have that first session and they can already see something click.
Yes.
Then they're just like, they even say, Siba, I will give you all my money, because what you have done for me in terms of showing up is way, way different.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of social media, and I speak for young people, I think a lot of young people are disillusioned about what does a good life look like?
Yeah.
Right? What does value in life look like? And because in mainstream media, all we see is that a good life is, quick gratification, getting the car, the money, good hair, you know what I mean? So for them, that almost is pedestalized over doing the inner work to actually be well, to show up as the highest version of yourself, so you can create more value. So it's definitely a mindset thing. And I'm hoping that even platforms like this would then change the perspective of people regarding what's important to invest in financially.
Yeah. And I think one of the stuff that we spoke about was when people come and say, I want to move from point A to point B, it's not as simple as just do this and do that. Sometimes there's an inner work. And sometimes there's a mental health work that needs to be done. Sometimes we have to go and challenge the cultures and the traumas. And, so also you have been certified as a gatekeeper for suicide prevention, and I was intrigued by that, because you would think, what does career coach have to do with suicide prevention? So can we take us through the link, the inner work that people must do, and how important it is for people to be mentally well, to be able to succeed in a work environment?
Absolutely. So we spend most of our lives working, right? Like our adult lives, most of us will spend in some form of work, right? And I also include like work at home, like, domestic work. You know what I mean? That's work as well. So when things there are not going well, there's just a higher probability that you won't feel well.
Yes.
Because that's most of your life, of your being, of your livelihood. Most people, when they meet you, they'll say, hi, what's your name? What do you do?
Yeah.
And if that's not going well, you can imagine.
I can.
And then the added layer is that I have clients who say are working, but maybe they're in toxic work environments. So they're dealing, and we alluded to this earlier, dealing with issues like sexual harassment, or their boss is just really mean, or there's work politics that are just making them not feel safe in that environment. They don't feel seen. They're overworked, right? They're even working on holidays because the terms of engagement in that place require that. So as a consequence, I then have clients who are maybe saying to me, Siba, I'm trying to get out of this job.
Okay.
And then, but you can tell even with their body language that they're not well. So I ask them, how's your routine? Then they're like, I actually struggle to get out of bed, right? So then why I did the QPR suicide prevention training is because I then the conversation would reach a point where I now even have to ask, like, do you sometimes feel like you don't want to be alive anymore?
Yeah.
And I'd get the response of yes. So then I had to learn, even as a coach, to then refer or escalate that matter to an actual like psychiatrist, psychologist who's more equipped to deal with that aspect, right?
Yeah.
And I think another layer is that with a lot of my clients, and I find that who want to change, who want to go for the promotion, another question I tend to ask is, do you believe that you can get this promotion?
Yeah.
And some of them will say no because they're so traumatized.
Yeah.
They don't believe that good things can happen to them.
Wow.
So it's not just a career coaching session now. It's a mindset,
therapy,
mental issue. So then I decided to take the certification because I was just like, there's a clear link here and I need to be positioned to make sure that I handle each situation with the sensitivity that it deserves.
Yeah. And how many of the people that you see actually need therapy? And I'm asking because, we once did a project with Amanda Ndabuza, who is a mentor.
Oh, yes. Yeah, amazing.
And so she would see this young, successful people who have a potential to grow.
Sure.
And as a mentor, should be like, no, but they have mental health problems that we need to clear.
To tackle.
So that is outside of my scope of practice. And then she asked me and a colleague of mine to do group therapy to help. And the trauma, and sometimes what they perceived, the clients didn't perceive it as trauma, but what came out was a lot of trauma that was holding them back, sometimes for even applying for better opportunities
100%.
or even advancing their studies, because they just think, I remember what my grandmother told me, or no one from my community
has reached this level.
All right. So what makes me think that I can, So how many of the people that you are assisting have actual mental health issues that requires professional help?
Sure. So I would say about 40% of my clients, even by the time they came to me, are already in therapy. So they have a therapist.
Good.
Now they're seeking a career coach.
Yes, great.
And then in terms of my referrals, I think I've referred about 20% of my clients who weren't in therapy at the time, referred them to therapists. And I mean, I'm in therapy as well, as much as I'm a career coach, and I do feel like my career is thriving. I'm also conscious of the fact that there are areas where I still need to reframe some limiting beliefs or thoughts, because I also want to show up as the best version of myself as a coach.
Yes.
And
so you need to have the background work clear.
Exactly.
Right? The backstage work.
It starts with me.
And I am also in therapy, and it was required for us because of our work. But I had found it personally beneficial to go and make sure that my backstage is sorted, so that my front stage, is good, or it is resembling that, backstage I am handling things. So it's good that it's coming from a non-mental health professional, because sometimes people think that we just want to suggest that everyone has mental health struggles.
Exactly.
Yet every professional that I encounter say people are really battling
too much
out there, and they just shy away from getting help, which inspired this interview, because
I'm so glad.
I really admire the work that you are doing, and I really believe that it will yield greater results to help us, especially in the data that you have quoted, that Black women are still at the back foot, even though in South Africa, affirmative action is prioritizing a Black child. But sometimes the Black girl is not able to stand up or to meet the requirements and the opportunities that is available for them. So thank you for the work that you are doing. And in closing, Sbatle, is there anything that you want to say to our viewers when it comes to their careers, when it comes to feeling stuck? Because there was a time for 2 years when you were unemployed, and unfortunately, that is the story of most South Africans. What is it that you want to say to them, just to encourage them to never give up? Somebody who is feeling they're in a toxic work environment and they want to leave, but they're not equipped to leave. They don't have a plan B to leave as well. So whatever that comes to your mind, whatever you feel you want to share to our audience, please.
Absolutely. So what I do want to say is just to say, in terms of context, we are living in really difficult times. There's so much uncertainty. We don't know what tomorrow holds, especially after having survived, the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's clear that where the world is going will continue to be more uncertain. So we all need to have growth mindsets in terms of how we approach life. So even if you are in the toxic job, I think you need to believe that there's a way out and find the support that you need. If you're unemployed, you're an entrepreneur who's struggling, keep going, but make sure you get the support structures required to re-strategize, have access to new unknown opportunities. And I just want to add, in this time of social media where a lot of resources, online courses, educational, podcasts that, inspire and motivate are available, make use of those. Spend time just like receiving and feeding your soul so that you have the fuel that is required to move forward. But I think for me, the biggest point I just want to share is that your dreams are valid in spite of where you come from, but you need to do the work to achieve them. Success is boring. The journey to success is boring. It is tedious. It is late nights. It's sacrificing leisure time and sometimes a bit of, rest or holidays. It's delaying the gratification. So I just want to say to everyone listening is that get the support that you need. Believe that you can achieve it. Put in the work and just go for what you believe is the best for you.
Wow. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to our viewers, I think for me, the recurring theme in this podcast is that things are not going to happen by default, that you have to be intentional.
Spot on.
Your sanity is a gift. To maintain it, you have to be intentional. And so nothing is going to happen by default.
Yeah.
And we're trying to give you all the resources that we possibly can so that we can help you be more intentional and know what to do. So thank you again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. The mental health community is growing. And if you haven't, subscribe, like, and share with your loved ones. Till then, love your mind.